Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
So I'm making things up right now as we speak, Shep. You know, as the show begins, you know, you have to put out the little things and say, hi, we're on and all that. So Shep talks about his battle with Todd Ewan. That's what happened Shep's a stand-up guy. He's going to stick up for his teammates. He knows he's not in Todd Ewan's weight class, but he dropped him anyway with Todd Ewan, okay? How you doing, buddy? I hope you and the family had a great Easter.
We did. How about you? Did you have everybody over?
We did. Not. It wasn't that many, though. It was 13, I think. It was only 13, I think. 13. Good evening, Tom. Yeah. So, yeah, well, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. How about you?
Yeah, we had about 9. So nothing too big. Yeah. Had to find a different way to cover up the nose, you know. So
what happened?
Looked like Quasimodo a little bit. You know, you feel like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but you make your way through it. It's amazing. If you have the slightest disfigurement, and this is more than slight, but you really start to pay attention to people and where they're looking. Whereas before, you know, they're fine to look away. Here, it's eye contact and immediately to the object that you choose not to talk about. And you feel like you've got to explain it all the time, right? Okay, have a little bit of a concern here. They had to dig some things out. And then you've got cosmetic surgery to try and repair it. It doesn't look good. That's why the bandage is there. Anyway, we can move on. Can I tell you about how the Easter Mass was, sir? Sure.
Yes. Absolutely. No doubt about that. Where to even begin, Shep? But you know what? Let's start with the Pistons if we can, because I think a lot of people are going to be interested into what happened. They let the Knicks off the hook. There's no doubt about that in game one. A 21-0 run from a team, Shep. It was funny. I was going back and forth with some Knicks fans today that took some grievances at the audacity of anybody to say that the New York Knicks are soft and traditionally collapse in playoff time. Who could suggest such a crazy, crazy thing?
I would argue one of the most overrated franchises in sports history.
Easily. It's Shep. It is. And when it starts to rain at MSG, it pours and the media gets all over them. And it's all of that stuff. And man, I could see the headlines on Saturday and then, well, a 21-0 run. And now you got beef stew out. And now the Pistons are in a world of trouble.
Yeah, look, this is a team. So you and I can disagree here, and that's fine. I don't know if they let them off the hook. I'll give the Knicks credit. I think they deserve some credit, so that's fine. My expectations of the Pistons are to win this round.
Sure,
it has not changed. My mindset is very similar to what the Tigers was last year against Houston. I expected them to beat Houston. Quite honestly, I expected them to beat Cleveland. And I think a lot of people were like, well, it's gravy after that. You know, this to me is all, you know, just it's gravy from here on out. It's icing on the cake because they've surpassed whatever was expected. I don't believe that. I don't think you do either. You and I both believe, and when we worked together at DFN, we used to say expectations change. You win 44 games. Now, that doesn't mean I think they're the best team in the East. I don't think they're, you know, a serious NBA title contender. But I thought they were the better team through 3 quarters against New York. But we all know it takes 4 quarters. So how do you feel about it? Look, this may cause a ruffling of some feathers. I think Cade Cunningham's got to be a lot better tonight.
100%.
Okay? People can look at the 21 points. That's fine. But 8 of 24, 6 turnovers. That doesn't jive. Okay? He's got to be better. I don't know how big of a loss Isaiah Stewart is. Jalen Duren's got to be better, no question. If they get another performance like they get from Tobias Harris from game 1, this team should win this game. But we'll see what happens because I'm sure the Knicks fans feel like they could play a lot better too, Sean. Don't you think?
Shep, I hope you understand what I mean by letting them off the hook. When you're in control of a game for 3 quarters and you give up a 21-0 run,
Yeah.
that you go from mentally soft team waiting for the rain to start to all of a sudden uberly confident team. And that's what I worry about, the psyche now and how that changed. Now, you can take it right back tonight, especially if you do it. Shep, I'm a firm believer. I'm so glad you said what you said. And this is not to dog Cade Cunningham because I think he's really become a special player.
Sure.
However, your best have to be your best in the big moments. And game 1 left a hell of a lot to be desired, man. No,
I don't disagree with you. And I'm not going to buy this. Oh, it's his first playoff. It was the first playoff game for Ty Jerome in Cleveland, and he had 28 points. Okay. I don't believe in the momentum factor. Milwaukee won 8 straight going into the playoffs. They got steamrolled by Indiana. Clippers had won 8 in a row. What happened to them in their first game against Denver? They let Denver off the hook. And the Nuggets came back and won in overtime. The playoff experience, where is that with the Lakers? They've got plenty of playoff experience. And as Tom brought up, how did they fare against Minnesota? Not too good, 21 triples allowed. So I think a lot of that has to do, with just, how you feel comfortable. I thought Detroit played fine. I thought they were comfortable. I thought Harris looked good. I thought Hardaway looked good. Beasley looked good coming off the bench. I don't know, Sean. I think this was going to be an even series anyway. It didn't surprise me that New York won game 1. I expect Detroit to win the next 2. I hope I'm right about that.
I hope you're right, too. Big hockey night, been ready since 7 a.m. Absolutely. That's why we're going now. We knew a lot of people wanted to watch the Pistons. We knew some people wanted to watch the Habs. Some people. Tom, Knights waiting for the winner of the Windsor and Kitchener for conference finals. Shep, I know you appreciate things like this. Windsor was up 3-0 in that series.
Really?
And they're going to a game 7.
Wow. That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool.
1,000%.
I'll tell you this. The other night I watched Colorado and Dallas Saturday night, right? Yeah, I think so. And McKinnon had a couple of goals. Spectacular. And then I watched Toronto and Ottawa yesterday. And Toronto looks really good, I think. And I know that's an original 6 team. I know there's a rivalry there. There's a part of me that is hoping that team can get past the first round and get a little bit deeper into the playoffs because I like a lot of their players. I like Marner. I like Matthews. I think there's plenty of people to like on that team. I'm kind of rooting for them not to win the cup, but to get a little bit further and get that proverbial monkey off their back.
Eric says hello to Sean and Shep. He said, did you guys watch WrestleMania? I did not. I haven't tuned in a long time. I'm
not going to lie, Eric. I don't. I've been to one wrestling event because at the time in my young career, I was in advertising and it was our client. I have never watched a WrestleMania in my life outside of that one episode.
Yeah. I used to be into it a long time ago, and it's bigger than ever, man. I mean, people,
it's massive.
People go nuts about it, no doubt. Capitals take into the ice right now. Their best of 7 series starts in Washington tonight. Shep, I wanted to ask you, and we're going to try to get through this quick tonight, so I got to do some reads and everything. Start of the year, I took Dallas and Florida in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Things change. Dallas is beat up. I just don't think it's going to happen. Florida is beat up as well. So I asked my buddy Mike on the What the Puck if I reserve the right to change my opinion.
Absolutely. Things change. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that everybody and their brother, and then I thought that until I looked at some predictions from national writers, was sleeping on the Vegas Golden Knights. I really do. I love Vegas defense score. Absolutely love it. I think they just wreak havoc on you. The East is seriously, in my mind, Shep, grab a coin and fit. And I think any of maybe 5 teams could say we got a legitimate shot. I ended up going with Carolina. Where are you leaning right now?
I'm leaning Colorado and Tampa.
I won't argue with that either.
Okay. I personally, I love watching Nathan McKinnon play. I
Oh,
do. I think
that
he's.
heat.
It's interesting. There are certain athletes, not just hockey players, but certain athletes. When you're watching, you get mesmerized. I get mesmerized. I can't help but find him and then just watch him the entire time. I don't know what kind of person he is. I think he's an underrated superstar in sports in general. Most hockey players are. And I love the way Tampa was playing at the end of the year. So I'm going to take those two teams.
You know what's interesting? The one thing that everybody forgets about, and I don't know why, is Andre Vasilevsky can still make the claim for being the best goalie in the world.
Yeah.
And it's almost like people just completely forget about this. Tom saw this fact the other day. The last time Boston Rangers missed the playoffs, Leafs won the cup.
Well, how about this one, Tom? This is the first time ever that Pittsburgh, Boston, and the Rangers have missed the playoffs.
Isn't that crazy?
In the history of the NHL, it's the first time it's ever happened.
Want to ask you about Dylan Larkin's comments. There was so much made about it. I personally, Shep, I think it's much ado about nothing. I got to be honest with you. I really do, and I'll explain to you why. But first, if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by those two guys right there. I guarantee you they're watching hockey. Mike Husak and Jeff Husak with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. And that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate through the complexities of financial planning. Now, maybe you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell a company, you're already in retirement. It doesn't matter. These fellas can help guide you through every step of your financial journey, wherever you're at. They work with clients throughout all stages of life, and they have clients in over 20 different states. Look, the investment world is a complex one. If you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it might be time to work with an expert. Reach out to the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or check out their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Shep, Dylan Larkin came out. I want to read some comments in a second, but Dylan Larkin came out, and I'm sure you heard the clip 80,000 times today. To be honest with you, I can't believe it went viral the way that it did, but whatever. And he said, hey, listen, the room, we were kind of deflated at trade deadline when we didn't do much. And you know, I thought Steve Yzerman made a mistake to say we made the moves that put us in the best position to make the playoffs. We kind of had some fun with that. Smith, Mrazek, that ain't it. Okay.
Right.
I think part of the job of a captain is to take the temperature of the room, to take the pulse of the team, and say things that maybe other guys can't say.
Right.
I don't have a problem with him making those comments, Shep. I don't at all.
So help me with this then, Sean. What's the overall, what did you gauge as the overall feedback from fans after Larkin said those things?
I think that people were more pro Dylan Larkin than anything else. Now, some people said maybe it's time for a change of scenery. Maybe he's frustrated, and I can't blame him. You know,
what would be wrong with him being frustrated is what I would ask people. I mean, if fans are frustrated and we're not putting in the work, I'm not doing morning skates, I'm not doing legs 5 times a week in the off season, right? I'm doing legs maybe twice a week, once in a while, right? So what? If I'm frustrated and you're frustrated and every fan at Little Caesars Arena is frustrated, why in the world should he not be frustrated?
Yep. That's exactly it. And Shep, I mean, when you think about it, this is a franchise record 9 years without the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking darkness with Harkness, all this stuff, the lost years of the 80s. It really is insane. And I'm going to say this again, Shep. Steve is behind schedule. There's no doubt about that. Nobody could say
now that the season is over.
You
right?
have to say, okay. I think he's a good 2 years behind schedule. Truth be told, I do.
You said at the beginning of the year, this was the year.
Yep.
Well, that would be only a year behind schedule.
I think they're 2 years behind. I do. I truly do, because I think some of the young players that are coming up yet, I don't know if it's a push enough to get into the playoff. I mean that in all sincerity. And part of that is other teams around them are getting better. Other teams around them have changed on the fly and are getting better. And so that's something to worry about. So that's the weird dynamic here, Shep. I'm not going to sit back and say that Steve Yzerman has done a poor job. If you want to say he's done a very poor job in his free agent signings, have it. I mean, there's Alex DeBrincat, and you know what I mean? But
Patrick Kane, probably.
Yeah, that one.
He's been fine. Look, signing Shane Gastasper was a good signing. David Perron was a good signing. I don't think they're home runs per se, but he's got a budget he needs to work with, right? His draft picks have been outstanding. You and I both know that. His free agent signings, some good, some bad, nothing spectacular, and probably more glaring on the bad side, especially from a goalie standpoint. Okay?
I think especially this offseason, Shep. This offseason was bad. And yes. I'm sorry, it started with Tarasenko, and I didn't like it from second one.
You didn't. Yeah, you said it right away. But I've said this to general managers. I used to say this to Joe Dumars. I said this to Martin Mayhew when we were in Oakland for a preseason game, and he and I were talking about draft picks. General managers are remembered for certain things that they've done. And even though Joe Dumars was so good at helping a team win a championship and get to Eastern Conference Finals 6 straight years, I think it was 6 straight years, right? People remember him for Darko Milicic, and they remember trading Chauncey Billups for Allen Iverson, and they remember Brandon Jennings, and they remember 2 bad free agent signings, okay, that were not necessarily, needed. Charlie Villanueva, for example, okay? Martin Mayhew, known for certain bad draft picks, even though he had some good ones. You're going to be remembered for a lot. Steve Yzerman right now is being remembered in Detroit, fair or unfair, not for the draft picks of Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider and some of these other good players who've made an impact. Marco Kasper, you got to love him. Oof. But some of the really bad free agent signings. And the reason is because it's glaring. And they have not addressed their need. And people feel like they're in the same spot now that they were 3-4 years ago. They don't see the acceleration of getting better. And it's hard to deny that.
Can I add 2 to your list? Martin Mayhew and his insistence, although 99.9% of the world knew Ndamukong Suh was gone, Marty Mayhew, knowing full well in his mind that Ndamukong Suh was going to be back, and further not having a plan B in place.
Right.
That's a true story.
Yeah.
And with Joe Dumars, for me, it was one of his strengths early on was confessing his mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think late game Joe Dumars kind of dug his heels in. Rodney Stuckey. His insistence that Rodney Stuckey was the man. Like that was like, but no, you're absolutely right, Shep. I don't know how anybody could argue that. And this is why.
Look at Alavila, Sean. You and I have talked about Alavila.
Yeah.
People don't remember the draft picks that he had that helped them win the division last year. You know what they remember? J.D. Martinez for 3 guys you can't remember, and they were all terrible, right? Because none of them made it. Sorry, Jose King was not the future at shortstop. And Justin Verlander for, 3 guys in the Houston farm system that turned out to be really not much at all, unless you want to count Jake Rogers being a finalist for the Gold Glove at catcher a year ago. That's what people remember. They don't remember Riley Green and Parker Meadows and Casey Mize and Spencer Torkelson and Tarek Skubal as a 9th round pick. They don't remember any of that.
No.
And I'm not saying they should. I'm just telling you those are the defining moments certain general managers have.
No doubt.
Let me ask you this. What is Brad Holmes known for, do you think? He's known for defying the odds and saying, I'm taking Penei Sewell and I'm trading up to get Jahmyr Gibbs. And people are like, holy crap.
Campbell and Gibbs, that one. I think that won a lot of people over.
Absolutely. And because you know why? Because so many people disagreed with it that he had to prove them wrong.
Yep.
Whereas the other general managers we just brought up, the things they did, nobody felt was right or was good enough. And the general manager turned to prove the fans right.
Yeah.
That's the problem, I think.
Yep. No doubt. Hey, did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy?
I did know that. Yeah, I did.
To get help with their home and auto insurance. You guys got to do it as well. Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents.
That's a new logo.
A full service One-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. New logo, same results. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you and help save you some money. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. Enter Legacy Partners. What are you waiting for? Give them a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, business insurance needs. Call them today, 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quote. Shep, we are so far behind. There's so many comments. Alan said, an important thing to remember about the Pistons is the average age of our core is 22. The Auburn team that was just in the Final Four is older than us. That's pretty funny. These guys get some experience under the belt. I think they bounce back.
Yeah, I like that. That's really creative. I think it's awesome. Here's the difference. Cade Cunningham's played, 4 years in the league, 210 games. Tobias Harris, a guy he's been to the playoffs 8 times, 12 series, 62 games played. Tim Hardaway Jr., 6 years in the playoffs, 10 series, 43 games played. Malik Beasley, somewhere around the same, because he's been around the league for 9 years. Outside Ron Holland's first shot, which was brutal, I didn't see much nerves for Detroit. I really didn't. Why is it Houston can miss the playoffs a year ago and suddenly they're the 2 seed and no one's using youth as an explanation there?
Right.
Even though they lost to Golden State. I don't see many people saying that their youth is showing through. I don't see that. And I'm not going to use it as an excuse. I think we use it when it's convenient for us.
Yep.
How many of the young guys for the Lions were playoff savvy 2 years ago, and yet they were pretty good in the postseason until the second half of San Francisco? Jaden Daniels didn't have a playoff game under his belt much until this year, and look at how well he played in his first 2 games. I think once the game begins, and talking with maybe at the beginning, there's a little butterfly here or there, and I'm sure there would be a butterfly if it were game 7 with 1.3 seconds left and your team's down by 2 and you're at the free throw line. But I think once the game starts playing, I think these guys look at it as another game, and I don't think the nerves are there for them. And I sure didn't recognize it for Detroit.
Avs defense came on strong Saturday night. Boy, when it started to rain downhill, David, it rained. I was up watching that. It started raining hard too. Larkin needs to play better. Flat out good player overall. Yep. Larkin is frustrated just like Yzerman was at the start of his career. That's an interesting point. I think people forget. Okay. And depending on who you talk to, Shep, I'm sure you probably heard the same stories. I know a certain coach really thought I should trade him. And I know a certain city was getting prepared to call a press conference to announce a trade. And it didn't happen, and that's the way it goes. The Wings are not in a win-now situation. Totally okay with Larkin's view, though. I agree with you.
That's an issue. I mean, if Adam thinks that and everybody feels the same, which is too bad, if they're not in a win-now situation, when are they going to be? That's troubling that we collectively, and I'm using me in there too, Adam, so I think you're right. If that's how we feel about it, and I think most teams are always in win now. Every general manager wants to win now. But with these young people, these young core, if you can use that word, when is win now then? Not now.
Shep, I know I've said this to you, but I think it bears repeating right now. It's a perfect time. I had 2 general managers, current general managers in the National Hockey League, by the way, not named Steve Yzerman, tell me that a rebuild of this magnitude takes 5 years just to get to that compete level.
Right.
Okay. Right. And the problem again is the Red Wings aren't there yet. And whether anybody likes it or not, they took a step back this year. Yeah. And I think that the troubling part of taking a step back this year was watching 2 teams in their own division take a big step up.
Which is what you said before the season began. You said they better elevate their play because everybody else in the division, it's a deeper division now. You could argue the toughest division in the National Hockey League.
I think so. And if Buffalo, I still think there's some like poison or something in Buffalo's water. I'm serious. How can you have that much talent over the last 14 years and not be able to make the playoffs? It's insane. but there's so much talent. At some point in time, they're going to get it right. This is going to be a crazy good division sooner rather than later. And I think the Red Wings are going to be part of it. And you mentioned so many of the players earlier, and there's still the guys that we haven't seen yet. There's still the guys that just got called up to Grand Rapids. And, we'll see how the Kosa Augustine thing plays itself out. See, this is a problem when there's a game on, Shep, because I'm kind of talking to you and I'm kind of going like that. Looking over.
I'm used to it.
Yeah. Casper, best pick so far. Boy, he looks good. Shep, you mentioned that.
I really like him. I like Albert Johansson too. I think he's a good-looking defenseman.
Yeah. Adam said, not trade young talent to make the playoffs, but not go anywhere. Yeah, I don't think. Take a look at the Habs. They went on this crazy one. They're not ready to win yet. You're out of your mind. They're not ready. They're not ready to win yet. They might win a series, and not with Monta blows in net, but.
Well, let me ask you this: when you say young talent, how old do you have to be before you're no longer young? Is Seider young talent?
Not anymore. No.
Okay. Is Lucas Raymond young talent?
I think so. I really do.
Who is? See, I think guys. So you had Larkin, you've got DeBrincat, you've got Kane. Those guys are all veterans, right? Mm-hmm. You've got. I would consider Seider a veteran. Gustafsson from the Rangers, of course, he's a veteran. Besides the Kaspers and the Soderblooms and the Edvinsons, right, and the Johanssons, everybody else they've been around the league long enough where we shouldn't count them as young players any longer.
Shep, there's still too many holes on this roster, point blank. You know it, I know it. There's a reason why young teams don't go win Stanley Cups. I mean, think about it. I always go back to that group of Edmonton Oilers, man. And everybody and their brother thought, all right, this is a team. And they had, playoff failure after playoff failure after playoff failure, finally got to the finals, and surely they were going to knock off the Islanders. And the Islanders toasted them. And to a man, I mean, Wayne Gretzky's told that story. I've heard him tell it 10 different times that they went in the locker room and the Islanders were all sitting there with ice packs on, and there wasn't some wild raucous party. And he and Mets looked at each other and were like, okay, that's what we have.
I thought it was him and Kevin Lowe were walking out.
Whatever it is, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's that, a lot of times it's take a step forward to take a step back. I always go back to this. People always think that, because you did this, that means you have to do that. And it doesn't work that way. Sports doesn't work that way. The Detroit Lions proved to all of us that it doesn't work that way, right?
That's right.
When it comes to
the Red Wings, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
The finals against the Devils. So everybody thought, okay, they lose to the Devils in a sweep. And you and I covered every single game of that series. And then the next year, okay, well, it's Detroit's turn to win. Oops, somebody stepped in the way. Hi, Colorado.
Yeah. And by the way, people forget those were not rip-roaring successful regular seasons when they won the cup in 97 and 98. That was a team that knew that its pay came come playoff time.
Yes.
It's not like we ran to the President's Trophy and never looked back. It wasn't like that, guys.
Right. They didn't have to make a strong push at the end of the regular season to make the playoffs like this team would have. Look, if everything were linear, folks, the Tigers would have at least a couple of more World Series, wouldn't they?
I still think 2013, it hurts my heart. It really does.
2006 kills me just because of who they played.
Oh, that was such an inferior team. It really was. Hey, when it comes time to get yourself a house, whether you're buying, selling, or both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? Alakazam, Alakazoo, Lindsay Broadwell. For you! Right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you will ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the main streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the game, so when it's time to get yourself a house, you got to call Lindsay. Get the most out of your house, and everything goes smoothly, you got to call Lindsay. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Shep, the Detroit Tigers are really, really good. I'll get to the draft in a second. The Detroit Tigers are really, really good. And, it was fun. I saw him last Wednesday. Jack and I were in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I saw some of your tweets. That's cool stuff. Yeah.
And then I saw him, we went to the game on Thursday. This is a really good baseball team right now, missing a lot of players. And that's what's so fun about this.
Yeah, it does concern me a little bit that Javy Báez is going to be more in center field than before. But I said this before the season began. I said it in the offseason. If you're not going to go get a guy like Anthony Santander, who I wanted, or a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, who I wanted, or you can't sign a guy like Alex Bregman, you are relying heavily on your young pros to deliver power.
Yep.
And Torkelson has done it. Carpenter has done it, although we should all be concerned that he's injured. And Riley Green earlier in the season was doing it before he hit that scuffle. And Dylan Dingler's been really impressive. Can they keep it up all season long? I think that remains to be seen. It's not that I'm a negative person here, but I need more than 21 games, 22 games to tell me who you are.
100.
I am not panicking about a guy like Cole Keith, who has an RBI single tonight, or a guy like Riley Green when he went for a 1-for-32 slump with 19 strikeouts. I didn't panic then, just like I'm not going overboard with Spencer Torkelson hitting 7 home runs and having an OPS over 1,000. I know it's not sexy, and I know it's not a lot of fun to say I'll wait and see, but you're going to have to show me over a 60-game stretch that this is who you are before I truly believe it is who you are.
You know what I can tell you? Javy Báez is bad, and I still don't understand why he's here. And I'm sick and tired of people telling me, pointing at things, Shep, like his wizardry defense, which isn't real wizardry anymore. A dude is hitting 268 with a 627 OPS. Let's forget about the 25 million, which none of us should. Okay, none of us should. Right. Shep, to watch people consistently defend this guy. It is. What was that game you used to play on the morning show with Brady and the late Jamie, defending the
indefensible?
That's where we're at with Javy Báez right now. It is like I feel like I'm living in an alternative universe, Shep. I'm not being funny. 268 and a 627 OPS. Yeah. Okay, isn't good for anybody. Again, forget 25 million. Forget it. We shouldn't. Yeah. But forget it. And people just constantly defend him. And Shep, I feel like I live on a different planet.
Well, if you're going to make that kind of money, because I'm not going to forget it, you're going to have to do something exceedingly well.
Yep.
Doesn't run the bases really well. I mean, he's a good base runner. Don't get me wrong. But
yes,
it's not. He's not Ellie De La Cruz either, though. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he's not swiping you 40 or 50 bags. He doesn't defend well. His throwing errors have always been a problem. And he's not hitting for power or average. So, and I don't mean to rip on him. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in the lineup once in a while. It's just that people who are trying to defend him are really taking a stance that I don't think they can win.
I don't get it. That it's been one of the strange ones lately, Shep. I have no other way to say that. I mean, in people, you're dumb, all that stuff. Okay, so point to me what Javy's doing well. And that's what it usually devolves into. You're dumb. You don't know ball. Okay, cool. That's a good time.
But they can't answer the question.
No, never.
They just got to turn it around by calling you names.
They're dumb.
They're smarter than you are.
I love you don't know ball. That's one of my new favorites. Kids are really fond of saying that.
Oh, yeah. Like Shep, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. Shep, do you have any feelings on the draft? Trying to figure out where I almost called him Martin Mayhew. Lord forgive me. Trying to figure out where Brad Holmes is going to go is next to impossible because we've seen him do this so often. But any gut feeling on the direction this might go?
So there's a couple of things, and it's not need-based. You and I are both on the same page with that. You draft the best player available. If Michael Williams is there, he's the pass rusher out of Georgia. I think you'd feel really fortunate. If a guy like Gray Zabel is there, he's a guy who can play tackle, guard right away, center eventually, take over Frank Ragnow. A big, strong kid who understands concepts, really smart guy, doesn't give up a lot of pressures in North Dakota State. If he were there and available, you'd feel pretty good about that too, right? And I'll tell you, I saw an interview with Kenneth Grant today on ESPN. I really like Kenneth Grant. Now, maybe you can get him in the second round, but he's got pretty good feet for a big fella. He's got the motor going. I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Lions uniform, depending on the round in which they draft him. So I think there's a couple of different ways. Some people are speculating, Sean, you trade Jameson Williams and you draft a guy like Matthew Golden.
I've heard that.
Now, I'll be very honest, okay? I've never been a huge Jameson Williams fan. I think he's irresponsible at times. But his season last year was pretty impressive.
He's a weapon.
Yeah,
and Shep, I think there are so many guys in the fourth round, like an Amon-Ra St. Brown at 112. Yeah. I think you can get value there, and you can worry about Jameson Williams another day. I think he just brings too much to the table.
Are you going to pay him? Are you going to pay him, Sean? This is what Brad Holmes. It's not about what he can do right now. It's Are you going to extend him? Are you going to pay for that 5th year? And then what are you going to do afterwards? Because you can't sign out everybody. And for me, I think wide receivers are more replaceable than most of every other position.
Amen. That's why I'm saying, you know what? Get this value and then worry about that down the line.
Right.
Really.
Unless you do what the Packers did with Devontae Adams. When they traded him to the Raiders, he was coming off a 1,500-yard season, 11 touchdowns, 120-plus rocks. He was about to make big money. Packers traded him for a first and a second round draft pick. If you could do something like that, I would not be opposed to it.
Shep, I have no problem saying if Grant is there at 28, this is assuming that Brad stays at 28, I would take him in a second. I think they need interior. I think they need edge. They definitely need an IOL. If I were a betting man and they stay at 28, I wouldn't be surprised if they go interior offensive lineman.
I would have no issue with that.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Let's talk about All About Catering before we get out of here. Full service caterer. Listen, graduation season is coming up, you guys. You need somebody to take care of the cooking. Trust me. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. For Rick and his staff, customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today. See all their menus and their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Draft show, Eric. I think we're going to do something Sunday. Then Shep and I will talk about it Monday. Shep, glad things are well. Enjoy the game tonight. Now I'm going to go watch hockey.
Okay, buddy. Enjoy. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Good to be back with you, Sean.
God bless you. Take care. We'll see you. Bye.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.